What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and you're watching the B1KER Bar Podcast.
So what kind of bike are you riding nowadays?
I've got about 15 downstairs in my basement right now, but only 3 of them are mine. So I've got an RSD Middle Child Titanium. That's my number one bike, and I love titanium. And people, it's expensive, and I get it, and it's not for everyone. It doesn't rust. I don't have paint on it. When it gets scuffed, you just scuff it up with a Scotch-Brite pad, and it's good as new. It's metal. You can lean it on a tree or a barbed wire fence. Nothing happens to it. That little bike is fantastic, and I've run it in so many setups.
What is it that you like about the titanium? I've always been curious about, like, people that say they have a titanium frame. They always say it like it's really good, but I never know why. You know?
Good question. Not all titanium's great, just like not all carbon's great. And I try not to use overgeneralizations, because a lot of people still use the term steel is real, and a good steel frame has a great ride quality to it, but I found aluminum frames that have that great ride quality too. So I try not to just paint with a broad brush, but titanium, when done right, feels like steel. It's a little bit, it's more compliant. And what I mean by that is when you hit a rock, it doesn't feel like when you hit your funny bone and that just zings up your arm and you feel that nerve all the way up your arm. It deadens it just a little bit. It still feels like a hardtail. You still feel that transfer to your body, but it absorbs some of those smaller vibrations, and that's just a really neat feel. And a good builder can tune that into the bike. So you don't want it to be flexy side to side. So when you're standing up mashing, you don't want the bottom bracket swaying left and right. And titanium bikes of the 90s did that. They were famous for that. You could watch XC racers at the finish line sprinting, and their bottom brackets are just flexing left and right because we were still learning how to kind of tune that out. But yeah, titanium is like, it's expensive because it's hard to weld. They have to fill the frame with gas to reduce impurities because of the welding process. So they have to completely seal it up. They have to have this pressurized line going into it, blowing gas into it at all times, so the weld stays clean. And the tubing's more expensive, and not everybody can do it. And so there's it adds cost. But titanium doesn't rust. It's lighter than steel. Usually steel can still be made pretty light, but usually titanium frames are about a ½ pound lighter than steel, with the same steel ride qualities. And like I said, with mine, I don't have to paint it. I don't have to worry about paint chips. I don't have to worry about scratches. It's a metal bike that takes a beating, and it looks brand new still.
Right on. Where does that like fall in between like carbon and titanium then? Like
the ride feel?
Yeah.
It depends. Like right now, and that's one reason why I'm kind of reluctant to do these online news stories where I'm just reading the spec sheets and the marketing materials and making assumptions based off of it. They're all just assumptions, and until you throw a leg over a bike, you don't know how it's going to ride. Like
especially
you said,
if it's carbon, you don't know how it's laid up.
Totally. Like a DV9 and a Chameleon will ride very different. A carbon Chameleon and a carbon DV9. The DV9 has a bit more forgiving ride, and the Chameleon is nice and stiff and has excellent power transfer. And when you're pumping a pump track on that Chameleon, it is just instant and it feels great. And then there's stuff like Ghost makes XC hardtail with paper thin seat stays that are designed to flex. And so that should be a very soft frame. And so I can't really make or like, let's take the Diamondback Sinker Carbon. That frame I expected to be overly stiff, but it actually wasn't. It was softer than the DV9 to me. And so it all depends on how they lay it up and how they do it. There's a lot of push to have the bling carbon one, and anytime something's carbon, we feel like it's bling and we want to show it off more. And I'm speaking in generalities. Not everybody's like this. But we always think like the carbon handlebars are going to be better than the aluminum ones, or the carbon wheels are going to be better than the aluminum ones. In some cases they are, and in some cases they're not. So a great carbon frame, they're going to put stiffness where you want it and softness where you want it. But I mean, so many things depend. Like if you're a 120-pound rider, my wife rides a DV9, and even though that's a comfortable frame for me, it still beats her up because she's so light. And so I mean, these frames are going to ride different for every person, and it's like hard to just say how it's going to be for everyone.
Yeah, like the aluminum Chameleon for me, the bottom bracket was like flexing like mad. for the size that I am.
Sure, makes
so
sense.
like when I went to the carbon, like when I would just be sitting and put my foot on the pedal, like you could watch my bottom bracket on the aluminum just sway, just putting my foot on the pedal sitting, you know.
I believe it.
And like on the carbon one, it's like I stick my foot on and like you'll see it like do a little like nudge. So like that is a huge difference whenever I'm pedaling.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Especially
Totally.
like when I'm trying to go fast and I'm like out of the saddle, just giving it to it, you know, like
Yeah.
I definitely noticed the ride characteristics for me and my size in that carbon, and I really enjoyed it.
If you like that, make sure you check out the full episode. And hey, do me a favor, before you take off, hit the like and subscribe.